Testing? Testing? Okay, that's good. That's good. All right. Okay. It's nice chilly Monday morning in December. And we're back with part 3 of We by Yevgeny Zamyatin. Sorry, it's been a few days since I streamed. I was planning on doing another episode this weekend, but Silly Bit's 24-hour stream ended up taking a lot more out of me than I thought it would, just being there for her and trying to keep the stream going. If anybody's there, it's always good to have you. I know the ad's running, so you probably won't hear this unless you're subbed or on Nitro. But it's always good to just say thank you. Anybody lurking, I don't really advertise it, but I don't mind if people lurk. I kind of expect it. This is, a book. I expect this to kind of be on in the background. I don't expect you to chat. I don't expect you to really interact, but I do appreciate anybody who wants to listen. Why is it still telling me the ad's starting soon? Huh. 3-minute manual ad. Well, there we go. Okay, there's the 3-minute ad. All right. Well, the sound is going. I think. I'm not going to add any music right now. We'll just keep going with what we got right now. But before we started, I just wanted to... yeah, I don't know. I don't really have much else to say that I didn't say before the ad rolled. I thought we were in the middle of it, but let's see. I'm going to quick turn off my mic and test something real quick.
Mark.
Okay, ad's wrapping up. We'll get back to it. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. A little stretching before we begin. Okay. So we're back with Record 21 of We by Yevgeny Zamyatin. The duty of an author. The ice swells. The most difficult love. Yesterday was her day, and again she did not come. Again there came her incoherent note, explaining nothing. But I am tranquil, perfectly tranquil. If I act as I am told in the note, if I go to the controller on duty, produce the pink check, and then, having lowered the curtains, if I sit alone in my room, I do all this not because I have no power. I do all this not because I have no power to act, contrary to her desire. That seems funny. Decidedly not. It is quite simple. On the wrong scene. Main stage. There we go. That seems funny. Decidedly not. It is quite simple. Separated from all curative plaster-like smiles, I am enabled quietly to write these very lines. This first, and second. I am afraid to lose in her. And I-330 is perhaps the only clue I shall ever have to an understanding of all the unknowns. Like the story of the cupboard, or my temporary death, for instance. To understand, to discover these unknowns as the author of these records, I feel to be my simple duty. Moreover, the unknown is naturally the enemy of man, and Homo sapiens only then becomes man in the complete sense of the word, when his punctuation includes no question marks, only exclamation points, commas, and periods. Thus, guided by what seems to me my simple duty as an author, I took an arrow today at 16 o'clock and went to the ancient house. A strong wind was blowing against me. The arrow advanced with difficulty through the thicket of air, its transparent branches whistling and whipping. The city below seemed a heap of blue blocks of ice. Suddenly, the city below seemed a heap of blue blocks of ice. Suddenly, a cloud, a swift oblique shadow. The ice became leaden. It swelled. As in springtime, when you happen to stand at the shore and wait, in one more minute, everything will move and pull and crack. But the minute passes, and the ice remains motionless. You feel as though you yourself are swelling. Your heart beats more restlessly, more frequently. But why do I write about all this? And whence all these strange sensations? For there is such an iceberg as could ever break the most lucid, solid crystal of our life. That was bad. For is there such an iceberg as could ever break the most lucid, solid crystal of our life? At the entrance of the ancient house, I found no one. I went around it and found the old janitress near the green wall. She held her hand above her eyes, looking upward. Beyond the wall, the sharp black triangles of some birds. They would rush, cawing, in onslaught on the invisible fence of electric waves, and as they felt the electricity against their breasts, they would recoil and soar once more beyond the wall. I noticed oblique, swift shadows on the dark, wrinkled face, a quick glance at me. Nobody here, nobody, no, and no use coming here. In what respect is it no use? And what a strange idea, to consider me somebody's shadow. Perhaps all of you are only my shadows. Did I not populate these pages, which only recently were white quadrangular deserts? Fuck. Did I not populate these pages, which were... I'm having such a hard time today. Did I not populate these pages, which only recently were white quadrangular deserts with you? Without me, could they whom I shall guide over the narrow paths of my lines, could they ever see you? Of course, I did not say all this to the old woman. From experience, I know that the most torturing thing is to inoculate someone with a doubt as to the fact that he or she is a three-dimensional reality, and not some other reality. I remarked only, quite dryly, that her business was to open the gate, and she let me into the courtyard. Good morning, Aki. Thanks for coming by. It was empty. Quiet. The wind remained beyond the walls, distant as on that day when, shoulder to shoulder, two like one, we came out from beneath, from the corridors. If it ever really happened. I walked under stone arches. My steps resounded against the damp vaults and fell behind them, sounding as though someone were continually following me. The yellow walls with patches of red brick were watching me through their square windows, watching me open the squeaky doors of a barn, look into corners, nooks, and hidden places. A gate in the fence and a lonely spot. The monuments of the 200 Years' War. From the ground, naked stone ribs were sticking out. The yellow jaws of the wall. An ancient oven with a chimney like a ship petrified forever among red brick waves. It seemed to me that they had seen those yellow teeth once before. It seemed to me that I had seen those yellow teeth once before. I saw them still dimly in my mind, as at the bottom of a barrel through water. And I began to search. I fell into caves occasionally. I stumbled over stones. Rusty jaws caught my uniform a few times. Salt drops of sweat ran from my forehead into my eyes. Nowhere could I find that exit from below, from the corridors. Nowhere. There was none. Well, perhaps it was better that it happened so. Probably all that was only one of my absurd dreams. Tired out, covered with cobwebs and dust, I opened the gate to return to the main yard. When suddenly, a rustle behind me, splashing steps, and there before me were the pink wing-like ears and the double-curved smile of S. Half closing his eyes, he bored his little drills into me and asked, "Taking a walk?" I was silent. My arms were heavy. "Well, do you feel better now?" "Yes, thank you. I think I'm becoming normal again." He let me go. He lifted his eyes, looked upwards, and I noticed his Adam's apple for the first time. It resembles a broken spring sticking out from beneath the upholstery of a couch. Above us, not very high, about 15 meters, arrows were buzzing. By their low, slow flight, and by the observation tubes which hung down, I recognized them. They were the arrows of the Guardians. But there were not 2 or 3 as usual. There were about 10 or 12. I regret to have to confine myself to an approximate figure. "Why are there so many today?" I turned to ask S. "Why? A real physician begins to treat a patient when he is still well, but on the way to becoming sick tomorrow, day after tomorrow, or within a week. Prophylaxis, yes." He nodded, and then went splashing over the stones to the yard. Then he turned his head and said over his shoulder, "Be careful." Again I was alone. Silence, emptiness. Far beyond the green wall, the birds and the wind. What did he mean? My arrow ran very fast with the wind. Light and heavy shadows from the clouds. Below, blue cupolas, cubes of glass ice were becoming leaden and swelling. "I'm doing well, Aki. How are you doing?" "Haven't read in a few days. I wanted to get another quarter of this book done, so I can. I want to actually get a second book into this series. I want to make it an actual series, not just a single book. But it's good to see you. It's good to have somebody in chat. The same evening, I took up my pen just now in order to write upon these pages a few thoughts which, it seems to me, will prove useful to you, my readers. These thoughts are concerned with the great day of unanimity which is now not far away. But as I sat down, I discovered that I could not write at present. Instead, I sat and listened to the wind beating the glass with its dark wings. All the while I am busy looking about, and I am waiting, expecting. What? I do not know. So I was very glad when I saw the brownish-pink gills enter my room. Heartily glad, I may say. She sat down and innocently smoothed the fold of her uniform that fell between her knees, and very soon she pasted upon me, all over me, a host of smiles, a bite of a smile on each crack of my face, and this gave me pleasant sensations, as if I were tightly bound like an infant of the ancients in a swaddling cloth. Imagine, today, when I entered the classroom, she works in the child educational refinery, I suddenly noticed a caricature upon the blackboard. Indeed, I assure you, they had pictured me in the form of a fish. Perhaps I really... No, why do you say that? I hastily explained. When one was near me, it was clear indeed that she had nothing resembling gills. No, when I referred to gills in these pages, I was certainly irreverent. Oh, after all, it does not matter. But the act is such. Think of it. Of course I called the guardians at once. I love children very much, and I think that the most difficult and the most exalted love is cruelty. You understand me, of course? Certainly. Her sentence so closely resembled my thoughts. I could not refrain from reading to her passage from my record number 20, beginning, quietly, metallically, distinctly do the thoughts, etc. I felt her brownish-pink cheeks twitching and coming closer and closer to me. Suddenly I felt in my hands her firm, dry, even slightly prickly fingers. Give this to me, please. I shall have it transcribed and make the children learn it by heart. Not only your Venerians need all this, but we ourselves right now, tomorrow, day after tomorrow. She glanced around and said in a very low voice, Have you heard? They say that on the day of unanimity. I sprang to my feet. What? What do they say? What, on the day of unanimity? The coziness of my room, its very walls, seemed to have vanished. I felt myself thrown outside, where the tremendous shaggy winds was tossing about, and where the slanting clouds of dusk were descending lower and lower. Thank you for claiming the three-streak silly. Descending lower and lower. You, boldly and firmly, grasped me by the shoulders. I even noticed how her fingers, responding to my emotion, trembled slightly. Sit down, dear, and don't be upset. They say many things. Must we believe them all? Moreover, if only you need me, I shall be near you on that day. I shall leave the school children with someone else, and I shall stay with you. For you, dear. You too are a child, and you need... No, I raised my hands in protest. Not for anything. You really think that I am a child? That I cannot do without a... Oh no, not for anything in the world. I must confess I had other plans for that day. She smiled. The wording of that smile apparently was, Oh, what a stubborn boy. She sat down, eyelids lowered. Her hands modestly busied themselves with fixing the fold of the uniform which fell again between her knees, and suddenly, about something entirely different, she said, I think I must decide, for your sake, but I implore you, do not hurry me. I must think it over. I did not hurry her, although I realized that I ought to have been delighted, as there is no greater honor than to crown someone's evening years. All night strange wings were about. I walked and protected my head with my hands from those wings, and a chair, not like ours, but an ancient chair, came in with a horse-like gait, first the right foreleg and left hind leg, then the left foreleg and right hind leg. It rushed to my bed and crawled into it, and I liked that wooden chair, although it made me uncomfortable and caused me some pain. It is very strange. Is it really impossible to find any cure for this dream sickness, or to make it rational, perhaps even useful? Record 22. The benumbed waves. Everything is improving. I am a microbe. Please imagine that you stand at the seashore. The waves go rhythmically up and down, up. Suddenly, when they have risen, they remain in that position, benumbed, torpid. It was just as weird and unnatural when everything became confused and our regular walk, which is prescribed by the tables, suddenly came to an end. The last time such a thing happened was 119 years ago, when, according to our historians, a meteorite fell hissing and fuming into the very midst of the marchers. We were walking yesterday as usual, that is, like warriors on the Assyrian monuments, 1,000 heads and 2 composite, integrated legs and 2 swinging, integrated arms at the end of the avenue, Where the accumulating tower was formidably resounding, a quadrangle appeared. On the sides, in front, and behind, guards. In the center, 3 numbers. Their uniforms were already stripped of the Golden State badge. Everything was painfully clear. The enormous dial on the top of the tower looked like a face. It bent down from the clouds, and spitting down its seconds, it waited with indifference. It showed 6 minutes past 13 exactly. There was some confusion in the quadrangle. I was very close, and I saw the most minute details. I clearly remember a thin, long neck, and on the temple, a confused net of small blue veins like rivers on the map of a small, unfamiliar world. And that unknown world was apparently still a very young man. He evidently noticed someone in our ranks. He stopped, rose upon his tiptoes, and stretched his neck. One of the guards snapped his back with a bluish spark of the electric whip. He squealed in a thin voice like a puppy. The distinct snaps followed each other at intervals of approximately 2 seconds. A snap and a squeal, a snap and a squeal. We continued to walk as usual, rhythmically, in our Assyrian manner. I watched the graceful zigzags of the electric sparks and thought, human society is constantly improving, as it should. How ugly a tool was the ancient whip, and how much more beauty there is. At that moment, like a nut flying from a wheel revolving at full speed, a female number, thin, flexible, and tense, tore herself from our rows, and with a cry, "Enough! Don't you dare!" she threw herself straight into the quadrangle. It was like the meteorite of 119 years ago. Our march came to a sudden standstill, and our rows appeared like the gray crests of waves frozen by sudden cold. For a second, I looked at that woman's figure with the eyes of a stranger. And as all the others did, she was no number any longer. She was only a human being, and she existed for us only as a substantiation of the insult which she cast upon the United States. But a motion of hers, her bending while twisting to the left upon her hips, revealed to me clearly who she was. I knew that body, flexible as a whip. My eyes, my lips, my hands knew it. At that moment, I was absolutely certain. 2 of the guards dashed to catch her. One more moment, and that limpid, mirror-like point on the pavement would have become the point of meeting of their trajectories, and she would have been caught. My heart fell, stopped. Without thinking whether it was permissible or not, whether it was reasonable or absurd, I threw myself straight to that point. I felt thousands of eyes bulging with horror fixed upon me, but that only added a sort of desperately joyful power to that wild being with hairy paws which arose in me and ran faster and faster. 2 more steps. She turned around. I saw a quivering face covered with freckles and red eyebrows. It was not she, not I-30, or I-330. That wild being with hairy paws, that's the inner furry of the main character with his hairy hands that he hates. He's got that dog in him. It was not she, not I-330. A rabid, quivering joy took hold of me. I wanted to shout something like, "Catch her, get her," but I heard only my whisper. A heavy hand was already upon my shoulder. I was caught and led away. I tried to explain to them, "But listen, you must understand that I thought that..." But could I explain even to myself all the sickness which I have described in these pages? My light went out. I waited obediently. As a leaf that is torn from its branch by a sudden gust of wind falls humbly, but on its way down turns and tries to catch every little branch, every fork, every knot, so I tried to catch every one of the silent, globe-like heads, or the transparent ice of the walls, or the blue needle of the accumulating tower, which seemed to pierce the clouds. Yes, silly, not that knot. At that moment, when a heavy curtain was about to separate me from this beautiful world, I noticed not far away a familiar, enormous head gliding over the mirror surface of the pavement and wagging its wing-like ears. I heard a familiar flat voice. I deem it my duty to testify that number D503 is ill and is unable to regulate his emotions.
Did something unusual just occur on the bridge?
Oh, hey, Em. Thanks for rating. Thanks for sharing your community. It's good to have you here. We just got started a little bit ago. I'm only in the second chapter of my read today. How's your stream? What were you reading? Or were you reading today? Were you playing a game? Let's see, where am I? Number D503 is ill and is unable to regulate his emotions. Moreover, I'm sure that he has led my natural indignation. We're still working our way through How the Light Gets In. Oh, okay, yeah, that's the same book that I saw you reading last time. I hope you're enjoying it. Yeah, thanks for coming by. Thanks for bringing your listeners to me. Hope I can keep them entertained with this sometimes rather dreary book. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, if you have to raid and run, feel free. Otherwise, yeah, it's good to have you. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, I'm actually hoping to have more than one book in a series, so that's why I named it December Dystopia. I'm thinking about which one I want to do next right now, because this book is kind of small. Yes, I exclaimed. I even shouted, "Catch her!" from behind me. You did not shout anything. No, but I wanted to. I swear by the well-doer, I wanted to. For a second, I was bored through by the gray, cold drill eyes. I don't know whether he believed that what I said... Oh, God. I don't know whether he believed what I... Oh, the mic is... Sometimes my mic arm is kind of between me and the book, so it's hard to read through it. I don't know whether he believed that what I said was the truth, almost, or whether he had some secret reason for sparing me for a while. But he wrote a short note, handed it to one of those who had held me, and again I was free. That is, I was again included in the orderly, endless Assyrian rows of numbers. The quadrangle, the freckled face, and the temple with the map of blue veinlets disappeared forever around the corner. We walked again, a million-headed body. In each one of us resided that humble joyfulness with which, in all probability, molecules, atoms, and phagocytes lived. In the ancient days, the Christians understood this feeling. They are our only, though very imperfect, direct forerunners. The greatness of the Church of the United Flock was known to them. They knew that resignation is a virtue and pride a vice, that we is from God, I from the devil. I was walking, keeping step with the others, yet separated from them. I was still trembling from the emotion just felt, like a bridge which a thundering ancient steel train has passed a moment before. I felt myself. To feel oneself, to be conscious of one's personality, is the lot of an eye inflamed by a cinder, or an infected finger, or a bad tooth. A healthy eye or finger or tooth is not felt. It is non-existent, as it were. Is it not clear, then, that consciousness of oneself is a sickness? Apparently, I am no longer a phagocyte, which quietly, in a business-like way, devours microbes with freckled faces and blue temples. Apparently, I am myself a microbe, and she too, I-330, is a microbe, a wonderful, diabolic microbe. It is quite possible that there are already thousands of such microbes among us, still pretending to be phagocytes, as I pretend. What if today's accident, although in itself not important, is only a beginning, only the first meteorite of a shower of burning and thundering stones, which the infinite may have poured out upon our glass paradise? Record 23. Flowers, the dissolution of a crystal. If only? They say there are flowers that bloom only once in 100 years. Why not suppose the existence of flowers that bloom only once in 1,000 years? We may have known nothing about them until now, only because today is the once in 1,000 years. Happy and dizzy, I walked downstairs to the controller on duty, and quickly, under my gaze, all around me and silently. The 1,000-year-old buds burst, and everything was blooming. Armchairs, shoes, golden badges, electric bulbs, someone's dark, heavy eyes, the polished columns of the banisters, the handkerchief which someone had lost on the stairs, the small, ink-blotted desk of the controller, and the tender, brown, somewhat freckled cheeks of you. Everything seemed not ordinary, but new, tender, rosy, moist. You took the pink stub from me while the blue, aromatic moon, hanging from an unseen branch, shone through the glasses of the wall and over the head of you. With a solemn gesture, I pointed my finger and said, "The moon, you see?" You glanced at me, and then at the number of the stub, and again made that familiar, charmingly innocent movement with which she fixes the fold of the unif between her knees. "You look abnormal and ill, dear. Abnormality and illness are the same thing. You're killing yourself, and no one would tell you that. No one." That no one was certainly equivalent to the number on the stub, I-330. This thought was confirmed by an ink blot which fell close to the figure, 330. Dear, wonderful you. You are right, of course. I am not reasonable. I am sick. I have a soul. I am a microbe. Hey, Ruben. Thanks for stopping by. Oh, thanks for the hydrate and the stretch. I'll get that going. Oh, thanks for claiming first, Ruben. I was wondering if someone was going to pick that up. Hey. Let me just make sure I get you in the number one position. Start us. There we go. Yeah, thanks for coming by, Ruru. It's good to have you. We're just 3 chapters into the read today. Let's see. But blooming is not a sickness. Is it not painful when the buds are bursting? And don't you think that spermatozoa are the most terrible of all microbes? Yeah, the reading's going good so far. I'm having a little bit of trouble. My where my mic is placed is between me and the book sometimes. So one eye is basically closed, and I sometimes look at the wrong word while I'm trying to read, and I screw myself up. Let's see. Back upstairs to my room. In the widely open cup of the armchair was I-330. I on the floor, embracing her limbs, my head on her lap. We were silent. Everything was silent. Only the pulse was audible. Like a crystal, I was dissolving in her, in I-330. I felt most distinctly how the polished facets, which limited me in space, were slowly thawing, melting away. I was dissolving in her lap, in her, and I became at once smaller and larger, unembraceable. For she was not she, but the whole universe. For a second, I in that armchair near the bed, transfixed with joy, we were one. And the wonderfully smiling old woman at the gate of the ancient house, and the wild debris beyond the green wall, and some strange silver wreckage on a black background, dozing like the old woman, and the slam of a door in the distance. All this was within me, was listening to my pulse and soaring through the happiest of seconds. In absurd, confused, overflowing words, I attempted to tell her that I was a crystal and that there was a door in me, and that I felt how happy the armchair was. But something nonsensical came out of the attempt, and I stopped. I was ashamed, and suddenly, "Dear I, forgive me. I understand nothing. I talk so foolishly." "And why should you think that foolishness is not fine? If we had taken pains to educate human foolishness through centuries, as we have done with our intelligence, it might perhaps have been transformed into something very precious." And I think she's right. How could she be wrong at that moment? And for this foolishness of yours, and for what you did yesterday during the walk, I love you the more, much more. Then why did you torture me? Why would you not come? Why did you send me the pink check and make me? Perhaps I wanted to test you. Perhaps I must be sure that you will do anything I wish, and that you are completely mine. Yes, completely. She took my face, my whole self, between her palms, lifted my head. And how about, it is the duty of every honest number, eh? Sweet, sharp, white teeth, a smile. In the open cup of the armchair, she was like a bee, sting and honey combined. Yes, duty. I turned over in my mind the pages of my records. Indeed, there is not a thought about the fact that, strictly speaking, I should. I was silent. Exaltedly, and probably stupidly, I smiled, looking into the pupils of her eyes. I followed first one eye, and then the other, and in each of them I saw myself. A millimetric self-imprisoned in those tiny rainbow cells. Then, again the lips and the sweet pain of blooming. In each number of the United States, there is an unseen metronome that tick-tocks silently. Without looking at the clock, we know exactly the time of day within 5 minutes. But now my metronome was stopped, and I did not know how much time had passed. In fright, I grasped my badge with its clock from under the pillow. Glory be to the well-doer. I had 20 minutes more. But those minutes were such tiny short ones. They ran, and I wanted to tell her so many things, and I wanted to tell her all about myself, about the letter from O, and about that terrible evening when I gave her a child, and for some reason, also about my childhood, about our mathematician Plappa, and about the square root of -1, and how, when I attended the glorification of the Day of Unanimity for the first time in my life, I wept bitterly because there was an ink stain on my unif on such a holy day. I-330 lifted her head. She leaned on her elbow. In the corners of her lips, 2 long, sharp lines, and the dark angle of lifted eyebrows. A cross. Perhaps on that day, her brow grew darker. She took my hand and pressed it hard. Tell me, will you ever forget me? Will you always remember me? But why such talk? What is it, dear? She was silent, and her eyes were already sliding past me, through me, away into the distance. I suddenly heard the wind beating the glass with its enormous wings. Of course it had been blowing all the while, but I had not noticed it until then, and for some reason those cawing birds over the green wall came to my mind. I-330 shook... I-330 shook her head with a gesture of throwing something off. Once more she touched me for a second with her whole body, as an arrow before landing touched the ground for a second with all the tension of a recoiling spring. Well, give me my stockings, quick. The stockings were on the desk, on the open manuscript, on page 124. Being in haste, I caught some of the pages and they were scattered all over the floor, so that it was hard to put them back in the proper order. Moreover, even if I've put them in that order, there will be no real order. There are obstacles to that anyway, some undiscoverable unknowns. I can't bear it, I said. You are here, near me, yet you seem to be behind an opaque ancient wall. Through that wall I hear a rustle and voices. I cannot make out the voices. I don't know what is there. I cannot bear it. You seem always to withhold something from me. You have never told me what kind of place it was where I found myself that day beneath the ancient house. Where did those corridors lead? Why was the doctor there? Or perhaps all that never happened? I-330 put her hands on my shoulder and slowly entered deeply into my eyes. You want to know all? Yes, I do. And you would not be afraid to follow me anywhere, wherever I should lead you? Anywhere. All right then. I promise you, after the holiday, if only... Oh yes, there is your integral. I always forget to ask, will it soon be completed? No, if only what? Again, if only what? She already at the door. You shall see. I was alone again. All that she left behind her was a barely perceptible scent, similar to that of a sweet, dry, yellow dust of flowers from behind the green wall. Also, sunk deeply within me, question marks like small hooks similar to those the ancients used for fishing. Vide, the prehistoric museum. Why did she suddenly ask about the integral? Record 24. The limit of the function. Easter. To cross out everything. I am like a motor set in motion at a speed of too many revolutions per second. The bearings have become too hot, and in one more minute, the molten metal will begin to drip and everything will go to the devil. Cold water, quick, some logic. I pour on pailfuls of it, but my logic merely sizzles on the hot. But my go ahead and hydrate myself for a second. Cold water, quick, some logic. I pour pailfuls of it on, but my logic merely sizzles on the hot metal and disappears into the air in the form of vapor. Of course, it is clear that in order to establish the true meaning of a function, one must establish its limit. It is also clear that yesterday's dissolution in the universe, taken to its limits, is death. For death is exactly the most complete dissolution of the self in the universe. Hence, L equals a function of D. Love is the function of death. Yes, exactly. Pardon me. That is why I'm afraid of I-30. I struggle against her. I don't want. Why is it? Oh, God. Excuse me. Yes, exactly. That is why I'm afraid of I-330. I struggle against her. I don't want. But why is it that within me, I don't want to, and I want to stand side by side? That is the chief horror of the matter. I continue to long for that happy death of yesterday. The horror of it is that even now, when I have integrated the logical function, when it becomes evident that that function contains death hidden within it, still I long for it with my lips, my arms, my heart, with every millimeter. Tomorrow is the day of unanimity. She will certainly be there, and I shall see her, though from a distance. That distance will be painful to me, for I am inevitably drawn close to her, so that her hands, her shoulder, her hair, I long for even that pain. Let it come, great well-doer. How absurd to desire pain. Who is ignorant of the simple fact that pains are negative items that reduce the sum total we call happiness? Consequently, emptiness, nakedness. The same evening. Through the glass wall of the house, I see a disquieting, windy, feverish pink sunset. I move my armchair to avoid that pinkness and turn over these pages, and I find I am forgetting that I write this not for myself, but for you unknown people, whom I love and pity, for you who still lag centuries behind below. Let me tell you about the day of unanimity, about that great day. I think it is for us what Easter was for the ancients. I remember I used to prepare an hour calendar on the eve of that day. Solemnly, I would cross out every time the figure of the hour elapsed. Nearer by 1 hour, 1 hour less to wait. If I were certain that nobody would discover it, I assure you, I should now, too, make such a calendar and carry it with me, and I should watch how many hours remain until tomorrow, when I shall see, at least from a distance. I was interrupted. They brought me a new uniform from the shop, as is customary. New uniforms are given to us for tomorrow's celebration. Steps in the hall, exclamations of joy, noises. I shall continue. Tomorrow, I shall see the same spectacle which we see year after year, and which always awakes in us fresh emotions, as if we saw it for the first time. An impressive throng of piously lifted arms. Tomorrow is the day of the yearly election of the well-doer. Tomorrow we shall again hand over to our well-doer the keys to the impregnable fortress of our happiness. Certainly, this in no way resembles the disorderly, unorganized election days of the ancients, on which, it seems so funny, they did not even know in advance the result of the election. To build a state on some non-discountable contingencies, to build blindly, what could be more nonsensical? Yet centuries had to pass before this was understood. Needless to say, in this respect, as in all others, we have no place for contingencies. Nothing unexpected can happen. The elections themselves have rather a symbolic meaning. They remind us that we are a united, powerful organism of millions of cells, that, to use the language of the gospel of the ancients, we are a united church. The history of the United States knows not a single case in which, upon this solemn day, even a solitary voice has dared to violate the magnificent unison. They say that the ancients used to conduct their elections secretly, stealthily, like thieves. Some of our historians even assert that they would come to the electoral celebrations completely masked. Imagine the weird, fantastical spectacle. Night, a plaza, along the walls, the stealthily creeping figures covered with mantles, the red flame of torches dancing in the wind. Why was such secrecy necessary? It has never been satisfactorily explained. Probably it resulted from the fact that elections were associated with some mystic and superstitious, perhaps even criminal ceremonies. What is going on? Hold on, I gotta look at my... I think something might be broken with my stream. Give me a moment to listen to it. Yeah. I broke my main stage. Let's see. This one is... Let's see this one here. A lot of my sound sources are completely gone from the main stage, so I don't know if blurps have been coming through. The music's been coming through? That's weird. I couldn't hear it a second ago. Okay, I'll go back to the main stage. I guess hopefully something. I don't even... shit. Do you see my chat on stream? No, my chat's not there. What the hell happened to OBS? Anyway, I'm just gonna get on with it. I don't have the wherewithal to fix it right now. We have nothing concealed. We have nothing to conceal or to be ashamed of. We celebrate our election openly, honestly, in daylight. We see them all vote for the well-doer, and everybody sees me vote for the well-doer. How could it be otherwise, since all and I are one? How could it be otherwise, since all and I are one we? How ennobling, sincere, lofty this is, compared with the cowardly, thievish secrecy of the ancients. And how much more expedient, for even admitting for a moment the impossible, that is, the outbreak of some dissonance in our customary unity, our unseen guardians are always right there among us, are they not? To remember the numbers who might fall into error and save them from any further missteps. The United States is theirs, the numbers, and besides. Through the wall to my left, a she number before the mirror door of the closet. She is hastily unbuttoning her uniform. For a second, swiftly, eyes, lips, too sharp, pink. The curtains fell. Within me, all that happened yesterday instantly awoke. I need the page. And now, I no longer know what I meant to say by besides. I no longer wish to. I cannot. I want one thing. I want I-330. I want her every minute, every second, to be with me, with no one else. All that I wrote about unanimity is of no value. It is not what I want. I have a desire to cross it out, to tear it to pieces and throw it away. Thank you. For I know, be it a sacrilege, yet it is the truth, that a glorious day is possible only with her, and only when we are side by side, shoulder to shoulder. Without her, tomorrow's sun will appear to me only as a little circle cut out of a tin sheet, and the sky a sheet of tin-painted blue. And I myself, I snatched the telephone receiver. I-330, are you there? Yes, it is I. Why so late? Perhaps not too late yet. I want to ask you. I want you to be with me tomorrow, dear. I said dear in a very low voice, and for some reason, a thing I saw this morning at the docks flashed through my mind. Just for fun, someone had put a watch under the 100-ton sledgehammer, a swing, and a breath of wind in the face, and the silent 100-ton, knife-like weight on the breakable watch. A silence I thought I had heard someone's whisper in I-330's room. Then her voice. No, I cannot. Of course, you understand that I myself. No, I cannot. Why, you shall see me tomorrow. Night. Sorry, that was phrased a little strangely.
Stretch now. Come on, move it, Ross, move it!
Stretch, silly. Oh, chat is over my face. Hold on, I can get it. Where's stream on? Stream on. Scooch. And my main spout capture. Scooch. There we go. Okay. That I can fix by myself. In moments. Okay, record 25. The descent from heaven, the greatest catastrophe in history, the known, is ended. At the beginning, all arose, and the hymn, like a solemn mantle, slowly waved about our heads. Hundreds of tubes of the musical tower, and millions of human voices. For a second, I forgot everything. I forgot that alarming something at which I-330 had hinted in connection with today's celebration. I think I even forgot about her. At that moment, I was the very same little boy who once wept because of a tiny ink stain on his unif, which no one else could see. Even if nobody else sees that I am covered with black, ineffaceable stains, I know it, don't I? I know that there should be no place for a criminal like me among these frank, open faces. What if I should rush forward and shout out everything about myself all at once? The end might follow. Let it happen. At least for a second I would feel myself clear and clean and senseless like that innocent blue sky. All eyes are directed upward. In the pure morning blue, still moist with the tears of night, a small dark spot appeared. Now it was dark, now bathed in the rays of the sun. It was he descending to us from the sky, he, the new Jehovah, in an arrow, he, as wise and as lovingly cruel as the Jehovah of ancients. Nearer and nearer he came, and higher toward him were drawn millions of hearts. Already he saw us, and in my mind with him I looked over everything from the heights. Concentric circles of stands marked with dotted blue lines of unifs, like circles of a spiderweb strewn with microscopic suns, the shining badges. And in the center, the wise white spider would soon occupy his place, the well-doer clad in white, the well-doer who wisely tangled our hands and feet in the salutary net of happiness. His magnificent descent from the sky was accomplished. The brassy hymn came to silence. All sat down. At once I perceived that everything was really a very thin spiderweb, the threads of which were stretched tense and trembling, and it seemed that in a moment those threads might break, and something improbable. I half rose and looked around, and I met many lovingly worried eyes which passed from one face to another. I saw someone lifting his hand and almost imperceptibly waving his fingers. He was making signs to another. The latter replied with a similar finger sign, and a third. I understood. They were the guardians. I understood. They were alarmed by something. The spiderweb was stretching and trembling, and within me, as if tuned to the same wavelength, within me there was a corresponding quiver. On the platform, a poet was reciting his pre-electoral ode. I could not hear a single word. I only felt the rhythmic swing of the hexametric pendulum, and with its every motion, I felt how nearer and nearer there was approaching the blah. And with its every motion, I felt how nearer and nearer there was approaching some hour set for. I continued to turn over face after face like pages, but I could not find the only one I was seeking, and the one I needed to find at once, as soon as possible, for one more swing of the pendulum, and I was he. Certainly it was he. Below, past the main platform, gliding over the sparkling glass, the ear wings flapped by, the running body gave a reflection of a double-curved S, like a noose which was rolling towards some of the intricate passages among the stands. S, I-330. There is some thread between them. I've always felt some thread between them. I don't know yet what that thread is, but someday I shall untangle it. I fixed my gaze on him. He was rushing farther away. Behind him, that invisible thread. There, he stopped. There. I was pierced, twisted together into a knot, as if by a lightning-like many-volted electric discharge. In my row, not more than 40 degrees from me, S stopped and bowed. I saw I-330, and beside her, smiling, repellent, thick-lipped R-13. My first thought was to rush to her and cry, "Why him? Why did you not want?" But the salutary invisible spiderweb bound fast my hands and feet. So gritting my teeth, I sat stiff as iron, my gaze fixed upon them. A sharp physical pain at my heart. I remember my thought. If non-physical causes produce physical pain, then it is clear that... I regret that I did not come to any conclusion. I remember only that something about heart flashed through my mind. A purely nonsensical ancient phrase. His heart fell into his boots, passed through my head. My heart sank. The hexameter came to an end. It was about to start. What it? 5-minute pre-election recess established by custom. The custom established pre-election silence. But this time, it was not that pious, really prayer-like silence that it usually was. This time, it was like the ancient days when the sky, still untamed, would roar from time to time with its storms. It was like the lull before the storm of the ancient days. The air seemed to be made of transparent, vaporized cast iron. You wanted to breathe with your mouth wide open. My hearing, intense to the point of pain, registered from behind a mouse-like, gnawing, worried whisper. Without lifting my eyes, I saw those two, I-330 and R-13, side by side, shoulder to shoulder, and on my knees, my trembling, foreign, hateful, hairy hands. Everybody was holding a badge with a clock in his hands. 1, 2, 3, 5 minutes. From the main platform, a cast-iron, slow voice. Those in favor shall lift their hands. If only I dared look straight into his eyes as I always had. If only I could think devotedly, here I am, my whole self, take me. But now I did not dare. I had to make an effort to raise my hand, as if my joints were rusty. The whisper of millions of hands, someone's subdued ah, and I felt something was coming, falling heavily, but I could not understand what it was, and I did not have the strength or courage to take a look. Those opposed? This was always the most magnificent moment of our celebration. All would remain sitting motionless, joyfully bowing their heads under the salutary yoke of that number of numbers. But now, to my horror again, I heard a rustle, light as a sigh, yet it was even more distinct than the brass tube of the hymn. Thus, the last sigh in a man's life, around him, people with faces pale and with drops of cold sweat upon their foreheads. I lifted my eyes, and it took 1/100th of a second only. I saw thousands of hands arise, opposed, and fall back. I saw the pale, cross-faced mark of I-330 and her lifted hand. Darkness came upon my eyes. Another 100th of a second. Silence. Quiet. The pulse. Then, as if at the sign of some mad conductor, from all over the stands, a rattling, a shouting, a whirlwind of units lifted by the rush, the perplexed figures of the guardians running to and fro, someone's heels in the air near my eyes, and close to those heels someone's wide-open mouth tearing itself in an inaudible scream. For some reason... Oh, the ad's about to start. Okay, I'm going to take a quick little break. I'm going to mute my mic, and I'm going to just double-check everything is right in OBS right now. Morning, Mark. Sorry the ad's starting. Bum. Okay, looks like everything's in order there. 2 more minutes on the break. Oh. Well, it's book is certainly picking up pace now. Getting into the last act, it looks like. Hopefully I should be able to finish before the next... I should be able to finish what I want to read today before the next ad break. Then, yeah. Yeah, I should be able to get it done before the next ad break. Let's see where we at here. Okay, 1 more minute on ad. Okay, a few seconds left on the ad. We'll get back to it here. Where was I? Guardians running to and pro. Okay, and we're back from ad break. Okay. For some reason, this picture remains particularly distinct in my memory. Thousands of mouths noiselessly yelling as if on the screen of a monstrous cinema. Also, as if on screen, somewhere below at a distance, for a second, 090, pressed against the wall in a passage, her lips white, defending her abdomen with her crossed arms. She disappeared as if washed away by a wave, or else I simply forgot her because this was not on the screen anymore, but within me, within my compressed heart, within the rapidly pulsating temples. Over my head, somewhat to the left, R13 suddenly jumped upon a bench, all sprinkling red, rabid. In his arms was I-330, pale, her unif torn from from shoulder to breast, red blood on white. She held him firmly around the neck, and he, with huge leaps from bench to bench, repellent and agile like a gorilla, was carrying her upward, away. As if it were in a fire of ancient days, everything became red around me. Only one thing in my head: to jump after them, to catch them. At this moment, I cannot explain to myself the source of that strength within me, but like a battering ram, I broke through the crowd, over somebody's shoulders, over a bench, and I was there in a moment and caught R13 by the collar. Don't you dare, I say, immediately. Fortunately, no one could hear my voice, as everyone was shouting and running. Who is it? What is the matter? What? R13 turned around. His sprinkling lips were trembling. He apparently thought it was one of the Guardians. I won't allow, put her down at once. But he only sprinkled angrily with his lips, shook his head, and ran on. Then I am terribly ashamed to write all this. I'm terribly ashamed to write all this down, but I believe I must, so that you, my unknown readers, may make a complete study of my disease. Then I hit him over the head with all my might. You understand? I hit him. This I remember distinctly. I remember also a feeling of liberation that followed my action, a feeling of lightness in my whole body. I-330 slid quickly out of his arms. Go away, she shouted to R. Don't you see that he... Go! R13 showed his white teeth, sprinkled onto my face some word, dived down, and disappeared. And I picked up I-330, pressed her firmly to myself, and carried her away. My heart was beating forcibly. It seemed enormous, and with every beat it would splash out such a thundering, such a hot, such a joyful wave. A flash. Let them, below there, let them toss and rush and fell and yell and fall. What matter if something has fallen? If something has been shattered to dust? Little matter. Only to remain this way and carry her, carry and carry. The same evening, 22 o'clock. I hold my pen with great difficulty. Such an extraordinary fatigue after all the dizzying events of this morning. Is it possible that the strong, salutary, centuries-old walls of the United States have fallen? Is it possible that we are again without a roof over our heads, back in the wild state of freedom like our remote ancestors? Is it possible that we have lost our well-doer? Opposed. On the day of unanimity, opposed. I am ashamed of them, painfully, fearfully ashamed. But who are they, and who am I? They, we. Do I know? I shall continue. She was sitting where I had brought her, on the uppermost glass bench which was hot from the sun. Her right shoulder and the beginning of the wonderful and incalculable curve. Her right shoulder and the beginning of the wonderful and incalculable curve were uncovered in an exceedingly thin serpent of blood. She seemed not to be aware of the blood, or that her breast was uncovered. No, I will say rather, she seemed to see all that, and seemed to feel that it was essential to her, that if her unif had been buttoned, she would have torn it open, she would have... And tomorrow? She breathed the words through sparkling white clenched teeth. Tomorrow nobody knows what. Do you understand? Neither I nor anyone else knows. It is unknown. Do you realize what a joy it is? Do you realize that all that was certain has come to an end? Now things will be new, improbable, unforeseen. Below, the human waves were still foaming, tossing, roaring, but they seemed to be far away, to be growing more and more distant. For she was looking at me. She slowly drew me into herself through the narrow golden windows of her pupils. We remained like that, silent, for a long while, and for some reason I recall how once I had watched some queer yellow pupils through the green wall, while above the wall birds were soaring. Or was this another time? Listen, if nothing particular happens tomorrow, I shall take you there. Do you understand? No, I did not understand, but I nodded in silence. I was dissolved. I became infinitesimal, a geometrical point. After all, there is some logic, peculiar logic of today, in this state of being a point. A point has more unknowns than any other entity. If a point should start to move, it might become thousands of curves or hundreds of solids. I was afraid to budge. What might I have become if I had moved? It seemed to me that everybody, like myself, was afraid now of even the most minute of motions. At this moment, for instance, as I sit and write, everyone is sitting hidden in his glass cell, expecting something. I do not hear the buzzing of the elevators, usual at this hour, or laughter, or steps. From time to time, numbers pass in couples through the hall, whispering on tiptoe. What will happen tomorrow? What will become of me tomorrow? Record 26. The world does exist. Rash. 41 degrees centigrade. Morning. Through the ceiling, the sky is, as usual, firm, round, red-cheeked. I think I should have been less surprised had I found above some extraordinary quadrangular sun, or people clad in many-colored dresses made of the skins of animals, or opaque walls of stone. Then the world, our world, does still exist. Or is it only inertia? Is the generator already switched out, while the armature is still roaring and revolving? 2 more revolutions, or 3, and at the 4th it will die away? Are you familiar with that strange state in which you wake up in the middle of the night, when you open your eyes into the darkness, and then suddenly feel you are lost in the dark? You quickly begin to feel around, seeking in the Journal of the United States. Quickly I found this. The celebration of the Day of Unanimity, long awaited by all, took place yesterday. The same well-doer who so often has proved his unshakable wisdom was unanimously re-elected for the 48th time. The celebration was clouded by a little confusion, created by the enemies of happiness, who by their action naturally lost the right to be the bricks for the foundation of the renovated United States. It is clear to everyone that to take their votes into account would mean to consider as a part of a magnificent heroic symphony the accidental cough of a sick person who happened to be in the concert hall. Oh, great sage, is it really true that despite everything we are saved? What objection, indeed, can one find to this most crystalline syllogism? And further on a few more lines. Today at 12 o'clock, a joint meeting of the Administrative Bureau, Medical Bureau, and Bureau of Guardians will take place. An important state decree is to be expected momentarily. No, the walls still stand erect. Here they are. I can feel them. And that strange feeling of being lost somewhere, of not knowing where I am, that feeling is gone. I am no longer surprised to see the sky blue and the sun round and all the numbers going to work as usual. I walked along the avenue with a particularly firm, resounding step. It seemed to me that everyone else walked exactly like me, but at the crossing, on turning the corner, I noticed people strangely shying away, going around the corner of a building sidewise, as if a pipe had burst in the wall, as if cold water were spurting like a fountain on the sidewalk, and it was impossible to cross it. Another 5 or 10 steps, and I, too, felt a spurt of cold water that struck me and threw me on the sidewalk. At a height of approximately 2 meters, quadrangular piece of paper was pasted to the wall, and on that sheet of paper, unintelligible, poisonously green letters, Mephi, M-E-P-H-I, and under the paper, an S-like curve back, and under the paper, an S-like curved back, and wing ears shaking with anger or emotion. With right arm lifted as high as possible, his left arm hopelessly stretched out backward like a hurt wing, he was trying to jump high enough to reach the paper and tear it off. But he was unable to do so. He was a fraction of an inch too short. Probably every one of the passers-by had the same thought. If I go to help him, only one of the many, will he not think that I am guilty of something, that I am therefore anxious to? I must confess I had that thought, but remembering how many times he had proved my real guardian angel, and how often he had saved me, I stepped toward him with courage and warm assurance. I stretched out my hand and tore off the sheet. S turned around. The little drills sank quickly into me to the bottom and found something there. Then he lifted his left brow and winked toward the wall where Mephi had been hanging a minute ago. The tail of his little smile even twinkled with a certain pleasure, which greatly surprised me. But why should I be surprised? A doctor always prefers a temperature of 40°C and a rash to the slow, languid rise of the temperature during the incubation period of a disease. It enables him to determine the character of the disease. Today, Mephi broke out on the walls like a rash. I understood his smile. In the passage to the underground railway, under our feet on the clean glass of the steps, again a white sheet, Mephi, and also on the walls of the tunnel, and on the benches, and on the mirror of the car, apparently pasted on in haste as some were hanging on a slant. Everywhere the same white, gruesome rash. I must confess that the exact meaning of that smile became clear to me only after many days, which were overfilled with the strangest and most unexpected events. The roaring of the wheels, distinct in the general silence, seemed to be the noise of infected streams of blood. Some number was inadvertently touched on the shoulder, and he started so that a package of papers fell out of his hands. To my left, another number was reading a paper, his eyes fixed always on the same line. The paper perceptibly trembled in his hands. I felt that everywhere, in the wheels, in the hands, in the newspapers, even in the eyelashes. The pulse was becoming more and more rapid, and I thought it probable that today, when I-330 and I found ourselves there, the temperature would rise to 39°C, 40°C, perhaps 41°. At the docks, the same silence filled with the buzzing of an invisible propeller. The lathes were silent as if brooding. Only the cranes were moving, most inaudibly as if on tiptoe, gliding, bending over, picking up with their tentacles the lumps of frozen air and loading the tanks of the integral. We are already preparing the integral for a trial flight. Well, shall we have her up in a week? This was my question asked to the second builder. His face is like porcelain, painted with sweet blue and tender little pink flowers, eyes and lips. But today, those little flowers looked faded and washed out. We were counting aloud when suddenly I broke off in the midst of a word and stopped. My mouth wide open, above the cupola, above the blue lump lifted by the crane, there was a scarcely noticeable small white square. I felt my whole body trembling, perhaps with laughter. Yes, I myself heard my own laughter. Did you ever hear your own laughter? No, listen, I said. Imagine if you are in an ancient airplane. The altimeter shows 5,000 meters. A wing breaks. You are dashing down like, on the way you calculate, tomorrow from 12 to 2, from 2 to 6, and dinner to 5. Would it not be absurd? The little blue flowers began to move and bulge out. What if I were made of glass and he could have seen what was going on within me at that moment? He knew that some 3 or 4 hours later, Record 27. No headings. It is impossible. I was alone in the endless corridors, in those same corridors, a mute, concrete sky. Water was dripping somewhere upon a stone. The familiar, heavy, opaque door, and the subdued noise from behind it. She said she would come at 16 sharp. It was already 5 minutes, then 10, then 15 past 16. No one appeared. For a second, I was my former self, horrified at the thought that the door might open. 5 minutes more, and if she does not come out... Water was dripping somewhere upon a stone. No one about. With melancholy pleasure I felt saved, and slowly I turned and walked back along the corridor. The trembling dots of the small lamps on the ceiling became dimmer and dimmer. Suddenly, a quick rattle of a door behind me, quick steps, softly echoing from the ceiling and the walls. It was she, light as a bird, panting somewhat from running. "I knew you would be here. You would come. I knew you. You..." The spears of her eyelashes moved apart to let me in, and how can I describe what effect that ancient, absurd and wonderful rite has upon me when her lips touch mine? Can I find a formula to express that whirlwind which sweeps out of my soul everything save her? Yes, from my soul. You may laugh at me if you will. She made an effort to raise her eyelids, and her slow words, too, came with an effort. "No, now we must go." The door opened. Old, worn steps, an unbearably multicolored noise, whistling and light. 24 hours have passed since then, and everything seems to have settled in me, yet it is most difficult for me to find words for even an approximate description. It is as though a bomb had exploded in my head. Open mouths, wings, shouts, leaves, words, stones, all these one after another in a heap. I remember my first thought was, fast, back, for it was clear to me that while I was waiting there in the corridors, they somehow had blasted and destroyed the green wall, and from behind it, everything rushed in and splashed over our city, which until then had been kept clean of that lower world. I must have said something of this sort to I-330. She laughed. "No, we have simply come out beyond the green wall." Then I opened my eyes, and close to me, actually, I saw those very things which until then not a single living number had ever seen except depreciated 1,000 times, dimmed and hazy through the cloudy glass of the wall. The sun. It was no longer our light evenly diffused over the mirror surface of the pavements. It seemed an accumulation of living fragments, of incessantly oscillating dizzy spots which blinded the eyes, and the trees, like candles rising into the very sky, or like spiders that squatted upon the earth, supported by their clumsy paws, or like mute green fountains. And all this was moving, jumping, rustling. Under my feet some strange little ball was crawling. I stood as though rooted to the ground. I was unable to take a step because under my foot there was not an even plane, but imagine something disgustingly soft, yielding, living, springy, green. I was dazed. I was strangled. Yes, strangled. It is the best word to express my state. I stood holding fast with both hands to a swinging branch. "It is nothing. It is all right. It is natural, the first time. It will pass. Courage." At I-330's side, bouncing dizzily on a green net, someone's thinnest profile, cut out of paper. No, not someone's. I recognized him. I remembered. It was the doctor. I understood everything very clearly. I realized that they both caught me beneath the arms and laughingly dragged me forward. My legs twisted and glided. Terrible noise, cawing, stumps, yelling, branches, tree trunks, wings, leaves, whistling. The trees drew apart. A bright clearing. In the clearing, people, or perhaps to be more exact, beings. Now comes the most difficult part to describe. For this was beyond any bounds of probability. It is clear to me now why I-330 was stubbornly silent about it before. I would not have believed it, would not have believed even her. It is even possible that tomorrow I shall not believe myself, shall not believe my own description in these pages. In the clearing, around a naked, skull-like rock, a noisy crowd of 300 or 400 people. Well, let's call them people. I find it difficult to coin new words. Just as on the stands you recognize in the general accumulation of faces only those which are familiar to you. So at first I recognized only our grayish-blue unifs. But 1 second later, and I saw distinctly and clearly among the unifs, dark, red, golden, black, brown, and white humans. Apparently they were humans. None of them had any clothes on, and their bodies were covered with short, glistening hair, like that which may be seen on the stuffed horse in the prehistoric museum. But their females had faces exactly like the faces of our women, tender, rosy, and not overgrown with hair. Also their breasts were free of hair, firm breasts of wonderful geometrical form. As to the males, only a part of their faces were free from hair, like our ancestors, and the organs of reproduction were similar to ours. All this was so unbelievable, so unexpected, that I stood there quietly. I assert positively that I stood quietly, and looked around. Like a scale, overload one side sufficiently, and then you may gently put on the others as much as you will, the arrow will not move. Suddenly I felt alone. I-330 was no longer with me. I don't know how or where she disappeared. Around me, only those, with their hair glistening like silk in the sunlight. I caught someone's warm, strong, dark shoulder. Listen, please, in the name of the well-doer, could you tell me where she went? A minute ago, she... Long-haired, austere eyebrows turned to me. Shh, silence. He made a sign with his head toward the center of the clearing, where there stood the yellow skull like stone. There, above the heads of all, I saw her. The sun beat straight into my eyes, and because of that she seemed coal-black, standing out on the blue cloth of the sky. A coal-black silhouette on a blue background. A little higher the clouds were floating, and it seemed that not the clouds, but the rock itself, and she herself upon that rock, and the crowd and the clearing, all were silently floating like a ship, and the earth was light and glided away from under the feet. Brothers, it was she. Brothers, you all know that there inside the wall, in the city, they are building the integral, and you know also that the day has come for us to destroy that wall and all other walls, so that the green wind may blow over all the earth, from end to end. But the integral is going to take these walls up into the heights, to the thousands of other worlds which every evening whisper to us with their lights through the black leaves of night. Waves and foam and wind were beating the rock. Down with the integral, down! No, brothers, not down. The integral must be ours, and it shall be ours. On the day when it first sets sails into the sky, we shall be on board, for the builder of the integral is with us. He left the walls. He came with me here in order to be with us. Long live the builder. A second, and I was somewhere above everything. Under me, heads, wide open yelling mouths, arms raising and falling. There was something strange and intoxicating in it all. I felt myself above everybody. A separate world. I ceased to be the usual item. I became unity. Again I was below, near the rock, my body happy, shaken and rumpled, as after an embrace of love. Sunlight, voices, and from above, the smiles of I-330. A golden-haired woman, her whole body silky golden and diffusing an odor of different herbs, was nearby. She held a cup, apparently made of wood. She drank a little from it with her red lips, and then offered the cup to me. I closed my eyes and eagerly drank the sweet, cold, prickly sparks, pouring down on the fire which burned within me. Soon afterward, my blood in the whole world began to circulate 1,000 times faster. The earth seemed to be flying, light as dawn, and within me everything was simple, light, and clear. Only then I noticed on the rock the familiar enormous letters, Mephi, and for some reason the inscription seemed to me necessary. It seemed to be a simple thread binding everything together, a rather rough picture hewn in the rock. This, too, seemed comprehensible. It represented a youth with wings and a transparent body, and in the place ordinarily occupied by the heart, a blinding red blazing coal. Again I understood that coal, or no, I felt it as I felt without hearing every word of I-330's. She continued to speak from above, from the rock, and I felt that all of them breathed one breath, and that they were all ready to fly somewhere like the birds over the wall. From behind, from the confusion of breathing bodies, a loud voice, "But this is folly!" It seems to me it was I, yes, I am certain it was I who then jumped on the rock. From there I saw the sun, the heads, a green sea on a blue background, and I cried, Yes, precisely. All must become insane. We must become insane as soon as possible. We must, I know it. I-330 was at my side, her smile 2 dark lines from the angles of her mouth directed upward. And within me a blazing coal. It was momentary, light, a little painful, beautiful. And later, only stray fragments that remained sticking in me. Very low and slowly a bird was moving. I saw it was living, like me. It was turning its head now to the right, then to the left like a human being, and its round black eyes drilled themselves into me. Then, a human back glistening with the fur of ancient ivory, a mosquito crawling on that back, a mosquito with tiny transparent wings. The back twitched to chase the mosquito away. It twitched again. And yet another thing, a shadow from the leaves, a woven, net-like shadow. Some humans lay in that shadow, chewing something similar to the legendary food of the ancients, a long yellow fruit and a piece of something dark. They put some of it in my hand, and it seemed strange for me. I did not know whether I might eat it or not. And again, a crowd, heads, legs, arms, mouths, faces appearing for a second and then disappearing like bursting bubbles. For a second, or perhaps it was only a hallucination, the transparent flying wing ears appeared. With all my might, I pressed the hand of I-330. She turned to me. What is the matter? He is here. I thought Who? S. A second ago in the crowd. The ends of the thin, coal-black brows moved to the temples, a smile like a sharp triangle. I could not see clearly why she smiled. How could she smile? But you understand, I-330, don't you? You understand what it means if he or one of them is here. You are funny. How could it even enter the heads of those within the wall that we are here? Remember, take yourself. Did you ever think it was possible? They are busy hunting us there. Let them. You are delirious. Her smile was light and cheerful, and I, too, was smiling. The earth was drunken, cheerful, light, floating. Record 28. Both of them. Entropy and energy. The opaque part of the body. If your world is similar to the world of the ancients, then you may easily imagine that one day you suddenly come upon a 6th or 7th continent, upon some Atlantis, and you find there unheard of cities, labyrinths, people flying through the air without the aid of wings or arrows, stones lifted into the air by the power of a gaze. In brief, imagine that you see things that cannot come to your mind, even if you suffer from dream sickness. That is how I feel now, for you must understand that no one has ever gone beyond the Green Wall since the 200 Years' War, as I have already told you. I know it is my duty to you, my unknown friends, to give more details about that unsuspected strange world which has opened to me since yesterday. But for the time being, I am unable to return to that subject. Everything is so novel it is like a rainstorm, and I am not big enough to embrace it all. I spread out the folds of my unif, my palms, and yet pailfuls splash past me, and only drops can reach these pages. At first, I heard behind me, behind the door, a loud voice. I recognized her voice, the voice of I-330, tense, metallic, and another one, almost inflexible, like a wooden ruler, the voice of you. Then, the door burst open with a crack, and both of them shot into the room. Shot is the right word. I-330 put her hand on the back of my armchair and smiled over her shoulder, but only with her sickness. I had the wrong. But only with her teeth. At you. I should not care to stand before such a smile. Listen, she said to me, this woman seems to have made it her business to guard you from me like a little child. Is it with your permission? But he is a child, yes. That is why he does not notice that is only in order, that all this is only a foul game, yes, and it is my duty. For a second, in the mirror, the broken, trembling line of brows. I leaped, controlling with difficulty the other self within me, the one with the hairy fists. With difficulty pushing every word through my teeth, I cried straight into her face, into her very gills. Get out of here at once! Out! At once! The gills swelled at first into brick-red lumps, then fell and became gray. She opened her mouth to say something, but without a word, she slammed it shut and went out. I threw myself toward I-330. Never will I forgive myself. She dared. But you don't think, do you, that this is all because she wants to register on me, but fortunately, she will not have time for that now. Besides, even 1,000 like her, I don't care. I know you will not believe that 1,000, but only for me. For after all that happened yesterday, I am all yours, all to the very end, as you wanted it. I am in your hands, and you can now at any moment. What? At any moment? But immediately I understood what. The blood rushed to my ears and cheeks. Don't speak about that. You must never speak about that. The other I, my former self. But now. How do I know? Man is like a novel. Up to the last page, one does not know what the end will be. It would not be worth reading otherwise. She was stroking my head. I could not see her face, but I could tell by her voice that she was looking somewhere far into the distance. She had hooked herself onto that cloud which was floating silently, slowly, no one knows where to. Suddenly, she pushed me away with her hand, firmly but tenderly. Listen, I came to tell you that perhaps we are now our last days. You know, don't you, that all auditoriums would be closed after tonight. Closed? Yes, I passed by and saw that in all auditoriums preparations are going on. Tables, medics in all white. What does it all mean? I don't know. Nobody knows as yet. That's the worst of it. I feel only that the current is on, the spark is jumping, and if not today, then tomorrow. Yet perhaps they will not have time. It has been a long while since I ceased to understand who they are and who we are. I do not understand what I want. Do I want them to have or not to have enough time? One thing is clear to me. I-330 is now on the very edge, and in 1 second more. But it is folly, I said. You versus the United States? It's the same as if you were to cover over the muzzle of a gun with your hands and expect that way to prevent the shot. It is absolute folly. A smile. We must all go insane, as soon as possible, go insane. It was yesterday, do you remember? Yes, she was right. I had even written it down. Consequently, it really had taken place. In silence, I looked into her face. At that moment, the dark cross was especially distinct. I dear, before it is too late. If you want, I'll leave everything. I'll forget everything, and we'll go there beyond the wall, to them. I do not even know who they are." She shook her head. Through the dark windows of her eyes, I saw within her a flaming oven, sparks, tongues of flame, and above them a heap of dry wood. It was clear to me that it was too late. My words could be of no avail. She stood up. She would soon leave. Perhaps these were the last days, or the last minutes. I grasped her hand. "No, stay a little while longer, for the sake. She slowly lifted my hand toward the light, my hairy paw, which I detest. I wanted to withdraw it, but she held it tightly. "Your hand. You undoubtedly don't know, very few do know, that women from here occasionally used to fall in love with them. Probably there are in you a few drops of that blood of the sun and the woods. Perhaps that is why I—" Silence. It was so strange that because of that silence, because of that emptiness, because of a nothing, my heart should beat so wildly. I cried, "Ah, you shall not go yet. You shall not go until you tell me about them. For you love them, and I don't know who they are, nor where they come from." "Where are they? The half we have lost? H2 and O? Two halves, but in order to get water, H2O. Creeks, seas, waterfalls, storms. These two halves must be united." I distinctly remember every movement of hers. I remember she picked up a glass triangle from my table, and while talking she pressed its sharp edge against her cheek. A white scar would appear, and then it would fill again and become pink and disappear. And it is strange that I cannot remember her words, especially at the beginning of the story. I remember only different images and colors. At first, I remember, she told me about the 200 Years' War, red color, on the green of the grass, on the dark clay, on the pale blue of the snow. Everywhere red ditches that would not become dry. Then yellow grass burned by the sun, yellow, naked wild men and wild dogs side by side, near swollen cadavers of dogs or perhaps of men. All this certainly beyond the walls, for the city was already the victor, and had already possessed our present-day petroleum food. And at night, down from the sky, heavy black folds. The folds would swing over the woods, the villages, blackish red slow columns of smoke, a dull moaning, endless strings of people driven into the city to be saved by force, to be whipped into happiness. You knew almost all this. Yes, almost. But you did not know, and only a few did, that a small part of them remained together and stayed to live beyond the wall. Being naked, they went into the woods. They learned there from the trees, beasts, birds, flowers, and sun. Hair soon grew over their bodies, but under their hair they preserved their warm red blood. With you it was worse. Numbers covered your bodies, numbers crawled over you like lice. One ought to strip you of everything, and naked you ought to be driven into the woods. You ought to learn how to tremble with fear, with joy, with wild anger, with cold. You should pray to fire, and we, Mephi, we want. Wait a minute. Mephi, what does it mean? Mephi? It is from Mephisto. You remember, there on the rock, the figure of the youth? Or no, I shall explain to you in your own language, and you will understand better. There are two forces in the world, entropy and energy. One leads into blessed quietude, or happy equilibrium. The other to the destruction of equilibrium, to torturingly perpetual motion. Our, or rather your ancestors, the Christians, worshipped entropy like a god, but we are not Christians. We... At that moment, a slight whisper was suddenly heard, a knock at the door, and in rushed that flattened man with the forehead low over his eyes, who several times had brought me notes from I-330. He ran straight to us, stopped, panting like an air pump, and would say not a word, as he must have been running at top speed. But tell me, what has happened? I-330 grasped him by the hand. They're coming, panted the air pump. With guards, and with them, that, what's his name, the hunchback. S. Yes, they are in the house by this time. They'll soon be here. Quick, quick. Nonsense, we have time. I-330 was laughing. Nonsense, we have time. I-330 was laughing, cheerful sparks in her eyes. It was either absurd, senseless courage, or else there was something I did not understand. Oh, excuse me. Or else there was something I did not understand. Dear, for the sake of the well-doer, you must understand that this... For the sake of the well-doer. The sharp triangle smile. Well, for my sake, I implore you. Oh, yes, I wanted to talk to you about some other matters. Well, never mind. We'll talk about them tomorrow. And cheerfully, yes, cheerfully, she nodded to me. The other came out for a second from under his forehead's awning and nodded also. I was alone. Quick, to my desk. I opened this manuscript and took up my pen so that they should find me at this work, which is for the benefit of the United States. Suddenly I felt every hair on my head living, separated, moving. What if they should read even one page of these mostly written? What if they should read even one page of these most recently written? Motionless I sat at the table, but everything around me seemed to be moving, as if the less than microscopic movements of the atoms had suddenly been magnified millions of times. I saw the walls trembling, my pen trembling, and the letters swinging and fusing together. To hide them, but where? Glass all around. Burn them? But they would notice the fire through the corridor and in the neighboring room. Besides, I felt unable. I felt too weak to destroy this torturing and perhaps dearest piece of my own self. Voices from a distance, from the corridor, and steps. I had time only to snatch a handful of pages and put them under me, and then, as if soldered to the armchair, every atom which was quivering, I remained sitting. While the floor under my feet rolled like the deck of a ship, up and down. As if soldered to the armchair, every atom of which was quivering, I remained sitting while the floor under my feet rolled like the deck of a ship, up and down. All shrunk together and hidden under the awning of my own forehead. Like that messenger, I watched them stealthily. They were going from room to room, beginning at the right end of the corridor, nearer, nearer. I saw that some sat in their rooms, torpid like me. Others would jump up and open their doors wide. Lucky ones. If only I too could. The well-doer is the most perfect fumigation human needs. Consequently, no peristalsis in the organism of the United States could. I was writing this nonsense, pressing my trembling pen hard, and lower my head bent over the table, and within me some sort of crazy forge. With my back I was listening, and I heard the click of the doorknob, a current of fresh air. My armchair was dancing a mad dance. Only then, and even then with difficulty, I tore myself away from the page and turned my head in the direction of the newcomers. How difficult it is to play a foul game. In front of all was S, morose, silent, his eyes swiftly drilling deep shafts within me, within my armchair, and within the pages which were twitching in my hands. Then, for a second, familiar, everyday faces at the door. One of them separated itself from the rest with its bulging pinkish-brown gills. At once I recalled everything that had happened in the same room half an hour ago, and it was clear to me that they would presently. All my being was shriveling and pulsating in that fortunately opaque part of my body with which I was covering the manuscript. You came up to S, gently plucked his sleeve, and said in a low voice, "This is D503, the builder of the integral. You have probably heard of him. He's always like that, at his desk. Does not spare himself at all." And I thought, what a dear, wonderful woman. S slid up to me, bent over my shoulder toward the table. I covered the lines I had written with my elbow, but he shouted severely, "Show us at once what you have there, please." Dying with shame, I held out the sheet of paper. He read it over, and I noticed a tiny smile jump out of his eyes, scamper down his face, and slightly wagging its tail, perched upon the right angle of his mouth. Somewhat ambiguous, yet, well, you may continue. We shall not disturb you any further. He went splashing towards the door as if in a ditch of water, and with every step of his, I felt coming back to my legs, my arms, my fingers. My soul again distributed itself evenly throughout my whole body. I breathed. The last thing. You lingered in my room to come back to me and say right in my ear in a whisper, "It is lucky for you that I did not understand. What did she mean by that? The same evening I learned that they had led away 3 numbers, although nobody speaks aloud about it or about anything that happened. This ostensible silence is due to the educational influence of the guardians who were ever present among us. Conversations deal chiefly with the quick fall of the barometer and the forthcoming change in the weather. Record 29. Threads on the face, sprouts, and unnatural compression. It is strange. The barometer continues to fall, yet there is no wind. There is quiet. Above the storm which we do not yet hear, the storm which we do not yet hear has begun. The clouds are rushing with terrific speed. There are few of them as yet, separate fragments. It is as if above us an unknown city were being destroyed, and pieces of walls and towers were rushing down, coming nearer and nearer with tremendous speed. But it will take some days of rushing through the blue infinite before they reach the bottom. That is us, below, and below there is silence. There are thin, incomprehensible, almost invisible threads in the air. Every autumn they are brought here from beyond the wall. They float slowly, and suddenly you feel something foreign and invisible on your face. You want to brush it off, but no, you cannot rid yourself of it. You feel it especially near the green wall, where I was this morning. I-330 made an appointment with me to meet her in the ancient house, in that apartment of ours. I was not far from the rust-red, opaque mass of the ancient house when I heard behind me short, hasty steps and rapid breathing. I turned around and saw 090 trying to catch up to me. She seemed strangely and perfectly round. Her arms and breast, her whole body, so familiar to me, was rounded out, stretching her unif. It seemed as though it would soon tear the thin cloth and come out in the sun, into the light. I think that there in the green debris, in springtime, the unseen sprouts try thus to tear their way through the ground in order to send forth their branches and leaves and to bloom. For a few seconds she stared into my face with her blue eyes in silence. "I saw you on the day of unanimity. I saw you too." I had once remembered, below, in a narrow passage she had stood, pressing herself to the wall, protecting her abdomen with her arms, and automatically, I now glanced at her abdomen, which rounded the unif. She must have noticed, for she became pink and with a rosy smile. "I am so happy. So happy. I am so full of... You understand. I walk and I hear nothing around me, and all the while I listen within me." I was silent. Something foreign was shadowing my face, and I was unable to rid myself of it. Suddenly, all shining, light blue, she caught my hand. I felt her lips upon it, and it was the first time in my life. It was some ancient caress as yet unknown to me, and I was so ashamed, and it pained me so much that I swiftly, I think even roughly, pulled my hand away. "Listen, you are crazy, it seems. And anyway, what are you happy about? Is it possible that you forget what is ahead of you? If not now, then within a month or 2? Her light went out. Her roundness sagged and shrank, and in my heart an unpleasant, even a painful compression mixed with pity. Our heart is nothing else than an ideal pump. A compression, i.e. a shrinking at the moment of pumping, is a technical absurdity. Hence it is clear how essentially absurd, unnatural, and pathological are all these loves and pities, etc., which create that compression. Silence. To the left, the cloudy green glass of the wall, and just ahead, the dark red mass. Those two colors combined gave me what I thought was a splendid idea. Wait, I know how to save you. I shall save you from see one's own child for a few moments only, and then be sent to death. No. You shall be able to bring it up. You shall watch it and see it grow in your arms and ripen like a fruit. Her body quivered, and she seemed to have chained herself to me. Do you remember that woman, I-330, that of long ago, who, during that walk? Well, she's now right here in the ancient house. Let us go to her, and I assure you that I shall arrange matters at once. I already pictured us, I-330 and I, leading 090 through the corridors. Then how she would be brought amidst flowers, grass, and leaves. But 090 stepped back, the little horns of her rosy crescent trembling and bending downward. Is she that same one? She asked. That is, I was confused for some reason. Yes, of course, that very same. And you want me to go to her? To ask her? To... Don't you ever dare say any word about it? Leaning over, she walked away. Then, and as if she had remembered something, she turned around and cried, I shall die, all right, and it's none of your business. What do you care? Silence from above. From above, pieces of blue towers and walls were falling downward with terrific speed. They will have perhaps hours or days to fly through the infinite. Unseen threads were slowly floating through the air, planting themselves upon my face, and it was impossible to brush them off, impossible to rid myself of them. I walked slowly toward the ancient house, and in my heart I felt that absurd, tormenting compression. We are about to go to the ads. I'm gonna snooze. Okay, snoozed for 5 minutes. Record 30. The last number, Galileo's mistake. Would it not be better? Here is my conversation with I-330, which took place in the ancient house, yesterday in the midst of loud noise, among colors which stifled the logical course of my thoughts, red, green, bronze, saffron yellow, orange colors, and all the while, under the motionless... Jesus. Excuse me. And all the while, under the motionless marble smile of that snub-nosed ancient poet, I shall reproduce the conversation word for word, for it seems to me that it may have an enormous and decisive importance for the fate of the United States. More than that, for the fate of the universe. Besides, in reading it, you, my unknown readers, may find some justification for me. I-330, without preliminaries, at once brought everything down upon my head. I know that the day after tomorrow, the first trial trip of the Integral is to take place. On that day, we shall take possession of it. What? Day after tomorrow? Yes, sit down and don't be upset. We cannot afford to lose a minute. Among the hundreds who were arrested yesterday, there were 20 Mephies. To let 2 or 3 days pass means they will perish. I was silent. As observers on the trial trip, they will send electricians, mechanics, physicians, meteorologists, etc. At 12 sharp, you must remember this. When the bell rings for dinner, we shall remain in the passage. Lock them all up in the dining hall, and the Integral will be ours. You realize that it is essential, happen that may, the Integral in our hands will be a tool that will help to put an end to everything at once without pain. Their arrows? Bah! They would be insignificant mosquitoes against a buzzard, and then, if it proves inevitable, we may direct the tubes of the motors downward, and by their work alone. I jumped up. It is inconceivable. It is absurd. Is it not clear to you that what you're planning is a revolution? Absurd, because a revolution is impossible. Because I speak for myself and for you, our revolution was the last one. No other revolutions may occur. Everybody knows that. A mocking, sharp triangle of brows. My dear, you are a mathematician, are you not? More than that, a philosopher-mathematician. Well then, name the last number. What is... I cannot understand. Which last? The last one. The highest. The largest. But I-330, that's absurd, since the number of numbers is infinite. How can there be a last one? And then why do you think there is a last revolution? Their number is infinite. The last one is a child's story. Children are afraid of the infinite, and it is necessary that children should not be frightened, so that they may sleep through the night. But what is the use? What is the use of it all? For the sake of the well-doer, what is the use, since all of us are happy already? All right. Even suppose that is so. And then what? How funny. Oh, shit. Okay. All right, even suppose that is so. Then what? How funny. A purely childish question. You tell a story to children, come to the very end, and they will invariably ask you, and then what? And what for? And then nothing. Period. In the whole world. Evenly. Everywhere. There is distributed. Ah, evenly. Everywhere. That is the point. Entropy. Physical or psychological entropy. Don't you, as a mathematician... Oh, shit, I am still in that quote. Okay. Ah, evenly. Everywhere. That is the point. Entropy. Psychological entropy. Don't you, as a mathematician, know that only differences in temperature, only thermic contrasts make for life? And if all over the world there are evenly warm or evenly cold bodies, they must be pushed off in order to get flame explosions. And we shall push. What the hell just happened? What the hell? And we shall push. But I-330, please realize that our ancestors during the 200 Years' Wars did exactly that. Oh, they were right, 1,000 times right, but they did one thing wrong. Later they began to believe that they were the last number, a number that does not exist in nature. You know, I'm gonna go ahead and snooze again because I'm very nearly at the end of this chapter and the read. And thank you for the hydrate, Twitchy. Thanks for dropping by. I don't know if you've been here lurking the whole time, but it's always good to see you. Oh, they were right, 1,000 times right, but they did one thing wrong. Later, they began to believe that they were the last number, a number that does not exist in nature. Their mistake was the mistake of Galileo. He was right in that the Earth revolves around the sun, but he did not know that our whole solar system revolves around some other center. He did not know that the real, not relative, orbit of the Earth is not a naive circle. And you, the Mephi? We? For the time being, we know that there is no last number. We may forget that someday. Of course, we shall certainly forget it when we grow old, as everything inevitably grows old. Then we shall inevitably fall like autumn leaves from the trees, like you, the day after tomorrow. No, dear, not you personally. You are with us, aren't you? You are with us. Flaming, stormy, sparkling. I never before had seen her in such a state. She embraced me with her whole self, and myself disappeared. Her last word, looking steadily, deeply into my eyes. Then do not forget, at 12 o'clock sharp. And I remembered, and I answered, yes, I remember. She left. I was alone amidst a rebellion, multi-voiced commotion of blue, red, green, saffron, yellow, and orange. Yes, at 12. Suddenly a feeling of something foreign on my face, of something implanted that cannot be brushed off. Suddenly, yesterday morning, and you, all she had shouted into the face of I-330. Why, how absurd. I hastened to get out of the house and home. Home. Somewhere behind me I heard the chattering of the birds beyond the wall, and ahead of me in the setting sun, the balls of cupola made of red crystallized fire, enormous flaming cubes, houses, and the sharp point of the accumulating tower, high in the sky like a paralyzed streak of lightning. And all this impeccable, most geometric beauty, shall I myself, with my own hands. Is there no way out, no path, no trail? I passed by an auditorium. I do not recall its number. Inside, the benches were stacked along the walls. In the middle, tables covered with snow-white glass sheets, with pink stains of sunny blood on the white. There was foreshadowed in all that some unknown... where'd I go? There was foreshadowed in all that some unknown and therefore alarming tomorrow. It is unnatural for a thinking and seeing human being to live... It is unnatural for a thinking and seeing human being to live among irregularities, unknowns, X's. If suddenly your eyes were covered with a bandage and you were left to feel around, to stumble, ever aware that somewhere very close to you there was a borderline, and one step only, and nothing but a compressed, smothered piece of flesh would be left of you, I now feel somewhat like that. And if, without warning, and what if, without waiting for anything, I should just head down? Would it not be the only correct thing to do? To disentangle everything at once? All right, and there's the end of chapter 30. I'm going to use my my last snooze here, just so we can go ahead and get chat done. Oh, okay, yeah, I want to thank everybody for stopping by. Just want to make sure I want to thank M for dropping by again. He's another reader like me. You should all check out his channel next time you get a chance, or if you're ever in the mood to hear something and I'm not reading, or there's nothing you want to catch up from me. At E. He's another reading and writing streamer. He also plays some games, but it seems like he's a little more prolific of a streamer than I. I'd like if all of you could go check him out. He dropped in this morning. I'd like to, get more into that community. It's always good to find other fans of books, fans of reading. And I'd like to get more people back into reading books, especially old ones that are a little pensive and hard to read sometimes because it makes your brain work and makes you learn your own language if you speak English and don't have a good vocabulary. But anyway, let's see who's out there to raid. Looks like CC's live. Writing from the perspective of a dog. Let's see.
Bark.
Egg and plant. Let's go to the following list. See who's all on. CC, Aster, Tsun. Ute is live. Yeah, let's go ahead and go with, looks like Ute's doing Minecraft. She's also a reader sometimes. She plays a lot of games, but yeah, let's go ahead and raid Ute. Here we go. Readers. Go ahead. Here's the, there's the raid message. Oh shit, now I gotta go back and find her again. Shh. You bird. Alright, and I'm gonna start the raid. Starting the raid. And wow, that's fast. Okay, 1 second. Oh, minute. Okay, we got 5